Now to Greenland, the focus today of a full-court diplomatic press as President Trump sent two of his top emissaries to try and strike a deal for the U.S. to take control of the Danish territory. Trump has been eyeing the ultimate real estate acquisition since his first term, but in the past year, the rhetoric has gone from wishful thinking to outright threats. Trump has made it clear he feels it is critical for U.S. national security. He has said repeatedly that Russia and China are eyeing the world's largest island, one that is rich in rare earth minerals. And that brought us here with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting in Washington today with the Danish Foreign Minister and the Prime Minister of Greenland. As the meeting took place, President Trump pressed his case on Truth Social, writing that acquiring Greenland is vital to U.S. security and the building of his planned Golden Dome missile shield. But while the meeting lasted for just over an hour, it ended with very little progress, except that the two sides agreed to disagree.
I think it's very important to say it again, that how important it is from our side to strengthen our cooperation with the United States, but that doesn't mean that we want to be owned by the United States.
The diplomats from Greenland and Denmark did concede that they are hoping to create a high-level working group with the United States to discuss a path forward, but no other agreement was made. Despite the pushback from Danish leaders, Trump signaled in the Oval Office this afternoon that he was not giving up.
Certainly, I'm not going to give up options, but it's very important. Greenland is very important for the national security, including of Denmark. And the problem is, there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it if Russia or China wants to occupy Greenland.
A new poll shows most American voters do not agree with President Trump. The Quinnipiac poll shows 86% of those asked oppose the U.S. trying to take control of Greenland by military force, while 55% oppose the United States trying to buy it. For more on this story, let's go to Troy Bouffard. He's the director of the Center for Arctic Security. Troy, welcome back to the show. So President Trump says the U.S. needs Greenland for its national security. Is he right?
He is correct, ma'am. In fact, there are 2 points that are driving this. One is North American defense, and we've had a lot of experience at with the Cold War. And the other is rare earth elements, and that's the thing that's not being talked about much here. And that's probably the more important part to understand with what's gone on for the last year.
So is this about national security, or is it about rare earth minerals and possibly oil?
Mostly about rare earth elements because they are vital. There's 17 statically defined elements that are vital to future innovation for defense tech and some of the most important future innovations in the world. And China has a huge amount of proven reserves on their own mainland. The United States doesn't. And we know that Greenland does from historical events and meteor strikes. They have a huge amount of reserves on Greenland. And they're more accessible and easier to process, actually. So for the United States, rare earths are vital to our future innovation in tech. We have to have a balance to counter China's own reserves just on their mainland alone. We need that access to Greenland. And I think what's happening here is this is a business deal for President Trump. He wants to know, and he wants to gain some kind of negotiation that results in a commitment from Greenland that they will partner solely with the United States for rare earths. So we
but
can
don't
have
we already
that
have agreements that are like that? China tried to open up some ports in Greenland, and we haven't. And Greenland refused to allow that, saying we have a deal with the United States. In other words, Greenland. This is something that actually Republican Senator Mitch McConnell said today. I've yet to hear a single thing we need from Greenland that they're not already willing to give us.
That's the part that's not being discussed. And we don't want to tip our hand off to China necessarily, but they already know this. We do have a long history with a defense footprint already in Greenland, in Pacific Space Force Base. We have a partnership, and if we need to change things to adapt to changing threats in the future, it should not be an issue. But what is difficult is having confidence that the future mining partnerships are possible. In Greenland's last general election a couple of years ago, they made it very clear, but the 2 issues they were voting on, prioritizing mining or not, they prioritized not mining. And right now, that's a signal to the White House that to secure that vital access to rare earth elements, that reserve, to counterbalance China, it may not be so easy. And we need to have strong commitments to make sure, for our national security purposes, that we do have access. And I think that's the driving force behind all this rhetoric.
The Prime Minister of Greenland said today, if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark, we choose Denmark. He went on to say that an American attack on Greenland would destroy NATO. We have France pledging to defend Denmark. President Macron warning the cascading consequences would be unprecedented if the United States tries to seize Greenland.
And I think that's part of the problem with the rhetoric, and people don't understand how important it is to understand President Trump. He doesn't think in terms of foreign affairs or diplomacy. It's business to him. He thinks in business strategy and tactics. This is another business for him. And what's interesting about this particular situation is we're looking at signaling of an actual hostile takeover, but it's for signaling purposes only. Right? This is a business deal to him. It's that important, where you would normally keep hostile takeover sort of developments a secret until you actually conducted it. In the foreign affairs world, because it doesn't translate so easy, it's kind of useful to signal, hey, we're willing to do a hostile takeover, just to create that power position from the business standpoint to get the results. When they finally do go to negotiations, I think if we get a commitment from Greenland for that exclusive partnership for rare earth element mining, that's the win the White House wants.
Trump has said that we need to acquire it to protect it from Russia and China. But the Prime Minister of Greenland said there haven't been, he said there haven't been any Chinese warships near Greenland in a decade. Independent researchers, including your own colleagues, say that the administration's claims that Russian or Chinese ships are circling Greenland are not true.
And I would agree with that at this point, but we know with how we're going to develop the future enterprise of North American defense to be able to deal with hypersonic cruise missiles, the early warning systems that we're going to have that include Greenland, that are going to be absolutely vital, much different than the ballistic missile threats, right? Hypersonic cruise missiles can be delivered and launched via air, land, or sea, which makes Greenland very important because that's now a threat vector that's realistic. So before these things happen, adversaries in the United States and Western nations alike, we all probe around to see how we can understand and affect defense systems, maybe blind certain radars and sensors. And this is common gray zone activities, hybrid and irregular warfare type of activities and threats, where we're constantly kind of chipping away at each other's defenses and infrastructure. And that's what's expected. That'll happen.
Well, as we pointed out the last time you were on the show, Trump is not the first American president to have his sights set on Greenland. It has long been a strategic, important piece of land, and with all the ice melting and the shipping routes opening up around it because there's now water instead of ice, it's just going to become more and more important. Troy, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.